Good morning.
Good morning.
The first Sunday of Lent every year is focused on the temptation of Christ in the desert. And you may have noticed that Mark's gospel, which we heard today, was relatively short compared to the detailed explanations in Luke and Matthew's gospels. As I began to reflect on the readings today, the wisdom of the church always puts readings together that make sense, but I had a little difficulty figuring out how do we get from Noah's Ark to Jesus in the desert. And to me, the clearest parallel was the 40-day trial for Noah as well as for Jesus. For 40 days and 40 nights it rained. This had to be a period of anxiety and great uncertainty for Noah, but also a time of deep thinking and reflection and total reliance upon God to get him through this literal storm. Like Jesus, Noah chose holiness over earthly pleasures, and he and his family were saved. The number 40 in the Bible is associated with the period of trial, hardship, and punishment, including the 40 years that the Israelites spent in the wilderness after the Exodus due to their sin and rebellion against God. For 40 days, Jesus fasted and was then tempted by the devil. The devil had been studying Jesus and probably thought this is the ideal time to tempt him because he would be weak, tired, and vulnerable. Jesus was, and always is, triumphant when tempted by the devil. He was also aided by angels. So like Jesus, we too should fight temptation and call upon the Holy Spirit for help. The Catechism of the Catholic Church describes temptation as an attraction to act contrary to right reason and the commandments of God. The Catechism also teaches us that the roots of temptation are the 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, envy, anger, lust, gluttony, and laziness. Now, the devil knows which of these 7 deadly sins we are each most susceptible to falling for. It may be money that motivates us, it may be sex, or the desire to be powerful or honored, or to be right all the time. It may be that we seek an excess of food or drink or leisure. The devil will study us and try to use our weaknesses against us to turn us away from God. But we should never forget that Jesus always unites people and brings about peace and love. The devil always separates people and brings about division and hatred. So where there is division in our society, and there's plenty of it, we can see the devil is at work. We are in a spiritual battle with the devil who wants us to move farther from God. The devil has been battling mankind since Adam and Eve, when he successfully tempted them and convinced them to eat the forbidden fruit that God told them not to. St. Ignatius said the devil is like a wise army general who studies his opponent, looking for weaknesses, and then he attacks when they are most vulnerable. The devil knows our shortfalls because of our past actions and sins. So when we fall, and we all do, it is good to humbly step back and try to determine what is it that caused our sin. When did we let our guard down, and what can we do to avoid this in the future? If we do not change, the devil will certainly take advantage of our vulnerability. This week I heard a nun talk about temptation, and she said that the devil is very predictable in how he tempts us. He's not particularly clever in how he goes about doing the same things over and over, so we can modify our behavior to fight him. The Holy Spirit and the angels are the invisible army that we have available to us. They are more clever, and they do not lose. So we should call upon them when we are in trouble, and they will help and minister to us. This week, we began Lent with Ash Wednesday, and it's the most important season of the year for Catholics. The overall goal for each of us is to grow closer to God. As we heard again on Ash Wednesday, Jesus taught us that the best way to grow closer to Him is through prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. This is a 40-day period in which we should give serious thought to our individual plans to grow closer to God. I met with several groups this week and asked what plans individuals had for this Lent. And very few people I spoke to have given a lot of thought to it. I think this is a missed opportunity. As kids, we probably always did something. We gave up something. Shouldn't we do the same as adults? Jesus retreated to the desert. For 40 days he fasted. For 40 days he prayed. And for 40 days he built up his defenses. What are we going to do this Lent? I'd like to suggest a few things so that we can imitate Christ. First, pray. To pray is to focus on loving God, to speak to Him, and to listen to Him. Bishop Fulton Sheen recommended a holy hour every day dedicated to prayer. For many of us, finding an hour a day is very difficult, but we should be able to find 15 minutes of quiet time to focus solely on God. There are thousands of ways to pray. We need to find what works best for us. Maybe more time spent on daily reflection, perhaps attending daily Mass, or spending a little more time in adoration. Secondly, almsgiving. Almsgiving is focused on loving our neighbor and helping those who are less fortunate. Giving money is great, but there are many other ways that we can help. Spending time with a friend or a neighbor who is lonely or ill, performing random acts of kindness. My wife likes to pay for the car behind us at McDonald's just to see the reaction. Now, we can always give our time and talents to the church or to other charities. In many ways, those of us here today are the most fortunate in the world. We have a great country, great church, great faith. Hopefully we can all share some of the God-given gifts that we have been given to help those less fortunate. Third, fast. Fasting asks us to focus a little less on ourselves. Christ asks each of us to sacrifice and fast from things that get between us and God. Now, we do not necessarily need to fast from foods or beverages. That may be helpful, but I remember we had a pastor when I was back in Naperville, and every year he gave up chocolate or coffee, and every year the parishioners would say, "Father Pat, you're kind of miserable to be around right now." And I don't think that's really the goal of fasting, to make other people less comfortable. What we should do is give up something that brings us closer to God. Other options may be eliminating the distractions that get in our way. Distractions like social media or TV, pornography, or other inappropriate internet sites, or spending too much time on computer games. And lastly, I would also suggest, as Catholics, we try to get to confession during Lent. We're asked to go to confession at least once a year, and ideally, that should be sometime during Lent. Our Lady of Joy is very gracious. Father Parks and Father Clement, the confessional is open 30 minutes before every Mass, and we'll also have other sessions during Lent. So please, if you can, take advantage of that. So as we go deeper into our 40 days in the desert, let us each take some time to make resolutions to pray, fast, and give alms. But be prepared, because the devil does not want us to succeed, and he will tempt us. He will find that soft spot and present opportunities that appear to be more appealing to us and less appealing to focus on God. But with Christ at our side, we too will triumph over the devil. As St. John Paul II said, There is no evil to be faced that Christ does not face with us. There is no enemy that Christ has not conquered. There is no cross to bear that Christ has not already borne for us and does not bear with us. May God bless you, and I hope you have a blessed Lent.